Hello, welcome to Toffee TV. Today I'm joined live from Qatar by Patric Ridge, who is a journalist for Stats Perform, and delighted to have a chance to have a chat with you, Patric. How are you?
Yeah, good time, mate. Missing home a bit, but not missing the weather. Although saying that, it was 34 degrees here yesterday. So the last few days have been very, very hot. Just started. It's 28. It's 28 today, and like coming in, I felt a bit chilly. It's weirdly how quickly you adapt when you're out and about in it.
Oh, mate, it's 5 here today, so it's cold. So it's very, very cold. So when did you get over to Qatar?
So I've been here the 29th now. I got here on the 18th, so
Right.
11 days ago now. So yeah, arrived just right on the eve of the tournament, really. Full flight out from Manchester. Actually, on the plane, there was a pretty large group of Welsh fans and things like that. A few little relatively famous faces, I suppose, but obviously everybody linked to the tournament.
Yeah.
And it's been a hectic week and a half. Like today is the first day that the schedule's kind of eased up a bit, and that's purely because obviously the games are all on at the same time, like filling, and just got another 2.5 weeks left now, or 3 weeks left.
Wow, been busy. What's it actually been like? Because obviously there was a lot of talk before this of, it's a strange time, isn't it, of course, to have a World Cup, a Winter World Cup, with it's alien to us all. The Premier League stopping and other leagues around the world, of course, have all stopped. There was a lot of talk about going into this, what it was going to be like, and we've seen bits and pieces over here. We've seen reporters moved on from reporting in the street. There's obviously lots of stuff, about the rainbow stuff, the armbands. There's been lots of talking points, shall we say. But what's it been like for you being on the ground over there? How have you found it?
So I think I was on the podcast with Steve and Ned just before I flew out, and that was the day after the Danish reporter had been kind of accosted for filming in a public area, and ultimately he did get apologised to, and right so, but before we came out, there was a massive lot made by the company and FIFA with their massive media guide and everything, saying how and where you can't film, what you can't take photos of, things like that. So I think generally, and I'm not saying that people break, I'm not saying I agree with the rules necessarily, but there's certain places it's not even a customary thing. It's like they don't. I suppose the organisers and FIFA don't necessarily want people who aren't wanting to be filmed just because they're there, which is fair enough in a way, and you can't take pictures of government buildings, you can't film in front of government buildings, things like that. So I suppose it was just getting used to everything, and the first few days you were kind of like you didn't want to push the boat out, or you didn't want to do anything wrong. But gradually once you get into the swing of things, and I'm at the media centre now, so this behind me, if the camera's working and not breaking up at all, this behind me is the working area for the written editorial journalists.
Right.
I'm about 2/3 of the way through the room, like back that way. It's just this massive exhibition hall.
Right.
And a lot's done at the media centre. So the media centre is pretty incredible. It's got everything, and I think from what I'm led to believe, it's more like an Olympics in that sense, because Doha's basically the host city for this, which has never happened at a World Cup. All the grounds are within. There's one ground that's not in Doha, right. Which is still about 5 minutes an hour away. So all the media are in one place, and I think once everybody's got used to that idea, then there's been a lot less problems with that. The media centre basically acts as the hub for everything,
right.
Which obviously watching as a fan you wouldn't really realise, because why would you? But it basically acts as the hub for the photographers, the written media, the camera crews, all the FIFA broadcasters, everything like that. That actually they're the ones who, the BBC don't send camera crews out; it's FIFA's camera crew. That do all that, and obviously they're, the broadcasters all use FIFA's feeds and things like that. So everything's based out of here. So I think it was just teething issues, really.
Right.
That's from my point of view. I am lucky. I suppose I'm a white journalist. I'm a man. I'm not a woman.
Yeah.
No one's asked if I'm gay or straight, but do you know what I mean? I've not been wearing rainbow things, and I don't, I'm not saying there's a problem with that, but I've not done it, and I've been made to feel I've not really been on social media much, but what I have seen is the kind of I suppose the decline of the Qatari culture in general, and I think there's parts of it that we definitely don't agree with, and I obviously stand with people who criticise that. I right to criticise it, in my opinion. But in terms of the actual people themselves, the working people, I'm staying in Al Rayyan, which is there's nothing touristy there really. It's a very real area, for lack of a better word, and the people have all been brilliant and so welcoming. So yeah, I can only speak from my experience, but it's been busy, but it's been really made to feel really welcome. Yeah.
What is there a McDonald's in the media centre? We've heard these rumours that there's a McDonald's with the press and stuff. Is that right?
Oh yeah, there is. There's a it's a McCafe. It's just down. I've actually been. They keep giving out free vouchers, so I've been using it for a cappuccino pretty much every day. Nice. Yeah, the media centre's got. I think it's got a full restaurant. It's got a little supermarket. It's got a gym. It's got a hair. You can get your hair cut somewhere in it. I don't know. I haven't found that yet. It's got a bar. It has got a bar. Okay. It has got a bar that sells Budweiser for an extortionate price.
Right. Okay.
But it's better than nothing. It's got about 3 cafes and stuff dotted around, and one of them is a little Macca's. Yeah.
Outstanding. What games have you been to then, Patrick?
So I was at Brazil, Switzerland last night.
Okay.
So unfortunately didn't get to see Neymar play, but it ended up being a pretty un-Brazil-like game, I guess. But that was really, really brilliant to be at. That was one of the best atmospheres I've been at before the match. There's been a lot of issues with the grounds not being full, and FIFA have said 94% capacity and everything, and those figures actually include people like me who are journalists we get tickets for the games, you see. Okay. So they're actually including those within. They're actually including like journalists within that as well. So it's they're kind of fudging the figures a bit in that sense. But the atmosphere was brilliant last night. The first game I went to was Wales USA. Right. I was at which ended up being a decent game. The best game I've been to so far. Weirdly enough, the best atmosphere I've been at so far was Tunisia Denmark. That was just a brilliant atmosphere. The Tunisian fans were incredible, and I think what we've noticed at this World Cup is the European nations aren't as well followed as they would be normally, and there's a lot of reasons for that, whether that's people boycotting it, whether that's people just can't afford a flight to get over here, and it's a 7-hour flight, they're not cheap, or accommodation isn't cheap or easy. But the Arab nations, especially the North African and Arab nations, they're so well followed, so I suppose it's just that it's just not what we're used to at World Cups, and I'm not saying that's a good or a bad thing. I was at I went to France. I've forgotten who they played. I've been to 6 so far, so I'm probably merging into
Australia.
France, Denmark the other day. Sorry, I went. So Mbappe scored twice, and I did a feature on that. Actually, my feature kind of focused on how the atmosphere felt so flat, considering it was the world champions, Kylian Mbappe, and there was about I could have counted maybe 2,000 empty seats across from me. So I don't know where FIFA got the figures from that it was nearly full, but the games generally have been good. There's been a lot made about. I know you've been watching them all, covering them live. There was definitely some ball draws, but I think if you look at previous World Cups, those first games are normally cagey, and I think you could tell that teams haven't had a lot of time to prepare for this one. And now that the group stages are opening up a bit, we're seeing more exciting games, especially between the lesser teams who don't have the talent necessarily, so they can't control games as easily. So they just have to go for it. Like Ghana were brilliant to watch. I did Portugal, Ghana. I've got Ghana Uruguay next week, which is a grudge match from the 2010 World Cup. So that'll be or later this week. Sorry. So they're really good, and the African nations are really well supported as well. So So yeah, I think 6 games I've been to so far. I've got England-Wales tonight, which should be a good one, and yeah, I've got no complaints so far. Just want to see Argentina play. I've not managed to get to one of their games yet, but I'm hoping to win the knockouts if they get through.
No, you've got to go and see Messi. Just before I'll come back onto the England game now, but what's it been like around the stadiums? Because obviously, like, our experiences of World Cups have been very much. You see what's going on outside the stadium. You see fans. It's very much a carnival type atmosphere at World Cups and all that. And what we've noticed here with the coverage is they haven't really shown anything other than what's going on within the stadium. There's been normally there's features on where the World Cup's being held. There's features on the area, the local fans, what the travelling fans are like, and all that. We haven't really seen any of that side of it, or not too much anyway. So what's it like being a reporter, a journalist on the ground? Are you seeing stuff outside the stadium? Is it very similar to what we would, or is it a very sanitised? Might be too strong a word, but is that the way it is?
No, I agree with that. To be honest, it's maybe not sanitised to an extent, but a word I've used a few times, and it's kind of artificial.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily mean fake fans or anything like that. But I mean, I've never been to this area of the world before, and some of it's amazing. And don't get me wrong, like some of the skyscrapers and things like that, and the Lusail, where I think where Portugal Uruguay played last night at that stadium. Lusail is like a city that's basically grown out of nowhere in the last 10 years, but this is the kind of thing. It is artificial. It is man-made in the sense everywhere's man-made, but man-made in like record time, and I think that's almost transferred to some of the games. And like I said, there's some games that the Tunisia game that I went to on the metro, which is amazing, by the way. It's state of the art, drives itself, never late. It's incredible. It's like something from it's a monorail and a subway in one. It is remarkable. But that's just the wealth that the country has, but or certain parts of the country have. But I went on the metro to that game, and you got the atmosphere there. You soaked up the atmosphere. It felt like going to a game at home, maybe where you go on the train, or you go on the bus before or whatever, and you're with the fans. Whereas, but again, and all my colleagues who have worked on games involving the Arab countries, they've had the same experience with that. South American countries, Argentina and Brazil and Mexico, obviously Central America, really well followed. And there is stuff happening outside the grounds then. So the Brazil game yesterday, there were a samba band outside the ground. There were lots of people congregating outside it, but most of them do make the way into the ground pretty quickly, or into the ground perimeter really pretty quickly. But obviously they're not standing around buying being able to drink, or have an alcoholic drink. But I've not seen it. I think that is a very European thing as well, in a way. Like, the South American fans don't usually need a bevy to be up for it, do they?
No, not at all. No.
So yeah, that atmosphere was really good. But then other times, the media centre, does act as a hub for all the shuttles that we get on. So, like the game I'm going to tonight is kind of out of town go out of town. Basically the last thing, and then it's just desert on the other side of the motorway. So I'll get a bus to that tonight, and that takes us pretty much direct to the media entrance. So it's kind of hard to get a full gauge of it, because I'm going in 2 hours before kickoff. But yeah, there's announcers before the games, and they're always saying the same thing and trying to get the crowd up, and it's like 2 or 3 announcers doing it, so that gets a bit wearing after when you know what they're going to say and you know what songs they're playing, and it's like sometimes the G in the crowd up and there's nobody there. Until like the ground won't fill up as you see it on TV until maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes before kickoff, like just before the anthems. It is crazy. I was at the game last night, and there was tons outside, and I thought, well, there's no way this is going to be any empty seats. But 5 minutes before kickoff, there were empty seats, and it was only just as kickoff happened that they started to fill up. So I don't know if it's just a mix of local fans who maybe they're just used to turning up and leaving when they want to. As well, like you've seen. Yeah, exactly, and like getting off at half time if they've not. I don't know. I don't know if it's just a cultural thing whereas obviously the people who followed the teams around are staying around and turning up early. But yeah, I generally think you're probably right, and I don't know if the coverage has been done because they don't want to show more of Qatar.
Yeah, maybe.
But into an extent, I think there is only a certain amount of stuff. Now, there's a lot of museums, there's a lot of cultural stuff around, and I'm hoping to get to it a bit more when the schedule opens up a bit. And I think from that point of view, there is a lot to do. But in terms of general fan stuff, there's the fan parks, but no one can go to them in the day because it's just too hot and there's no shelter. So, yeah, I mean, like I said, the last few days have just been mad. But when as soon as the sun goes down, about 4:30 here now.
Yes.
You know, by 5 o'clock, it's at least started to cool down.
Yeah.
But then I'm heading to games, so I'm not seeing if the fan park is busy or not. So, yeah, I'm sure there is stuff going on. We've seen on the big screens that the fan parks look busy. There were some problems, I think, the first few days, again, with like over policing, really.
Yeah.
Not that we've seen much different to that in Europe too, but like obviously it's been highlighted a bit more, and rightly so. But from my perspective, I think you're right there, Baz. I think artificial and sanitized could be a word to describe some of it.
Yeah.
And then others, especially the South American and Arabian teams, like I said, that's definitely real and that's definitely passionate, and they're definitely attending the games in big numbers.
Yeah, understandable. Just going back then, before I let you go back to tonight, you're off to Wales, England tonight. What have you made of England so far? Obviously had a great result, the first game 6-2 against Iran, and then disappointing display against the United States on Friday night. So I expect them to win tonight. I think Wales just are a little bit limited. I expect England to get through. But what have you made of England so far?
So I mean, probably my person to ask. It's weird. Like I see so much more of the World Cup when I've done it from home than here, because you spend so much time traveling around, I guess, and it's hard to catch all the games. But I did see most of the Iran game, and I think it was a mixture of England being on it from an attacking point of view and not being scared or too pragmatic. Really, I think would be the word. They kind of went for it because they knew that Iran didn't look on it, and Iran are a decent team, I think, but they've had a lot to deal with, contextually around what's going on in their country, and with all the stuff with the One Love armband. Well, Iran are the one team that actually did do something and were nearly punished for it, and the players had to basically sing the anthem through gritted teeth in the next game. But I think you could tell that England were on it that day and Iran were off it, and we got what we got. Whereas the United States game, like I did the Wales US game, as I said, and the USA was the better team for an hour of that, and then they just didn't have the cutting edge, and they didn't have the. I think it's because they're such a young team as well, and they don't really have an out and out outstanding striker. That they didn't beat Wales pretty easily. So I was no surprise really to see them go at England, and I know Southgate's come under criticism, and he's a very pragmatic manager, and that ultimately that pragmatism is what's got England so far in tournaments. But there is a time when you feel like he has to let them off a leash a little bit, because they should have still been good enough to beat the US. But from the sense of the general group, like I'm going to it tonight, and England are in full control. Like if they've got to lose 4-0 to not go through. And that's so like realistically that's not going to happen. Wales are pretty limited. I don't think I like what they've done, and I think it's a great story, and that's amazing. But the setup in the first game reminded me of Everton basically before the break. Like it was just all wrong. Just massive gaps between the players when they're on the ball, and everybody having to hit these long passes to get anywhere. So I think Wales will be up for it. But I think England should probably win, but I don't expect it to be high scoring. I just don't think. I think the Iran game was a real exception to the rule with England. It'd be nice to see him go a bit more adventurous, but then on the flip side, if it was, I'm a bit of a fair weather England supporter. I'm happy when they're doing well, but I'm not gonna. All my emotion goes on to Everton. I can't have another disappointment. So I just look at it from an objective standpoint. It's like, well, they're in control of the group, and if that was Everton in a league game, for example, you just go and get the result that you need to. So, I think that'll be the approach tonight. But in the knockout stages, he has got to, I think, find a way to let us down in previous tournaments.
Yeah,
just not having the midfielders against Croatia, and then against Italy last year, just not going for it when we were in control.
Yeah. No, I agree. They've got the players to really go. It seems the front players are almost as good as anything else that's in the tournament. Really,
I don't know, like
form and
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't know, like what's like. Obviously, it's weird. I feel detached from everything at the moment back home because I can't see anything. I can't see any of the coverage. I don't know how it's going on. I suppose what's from your guys' perspective, who have you been most impressed with in the tournament so far?
France have looked, obviously, Mbappe. When you've got Mbappe, you've got a chance. I like Brazil, but I know last night Switzerland, we come not to play and all that. Have 10 men behind the ball, and Brazil struggled a little bit. Spain were excellent in the first game and not so good in the second. So I think there's been hit and misses, I think, from those teams. But I expect those 3 or 4 teams, and I put England in there as well, just because of the quality players they've got. That they're the kind of teams that I think you're looking at for, to go far in the competition. Argentina have not really done it, and they've relied on, certainly the other day, a bit of Messi magic to open the game up for them. But I think overall probably France or Spain have looked a little bit better than everybody else. But there has been hit and misses. Ghana have looked good, and yesterday, but then other games, and it is what it is, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I asked, I spoke to a few Ghana players after the game against Portugal, and they'd like Tariq Lamptey was pretty good on it, and he said they did stick to the game plan. But from my so I was at that Portugal game, and they were so defensive for the first hour, but you knew they have that attacking talent. And when they actually, a bit like with England, but on a much smaller scale, I guess, when they actually really went at Portugal, that's when they created the chances. And it was only really some probably poorly timed substitutions from the manager, I think he's a very young manager, but he speaks really well. Ado Otto in his press conferences. Yeah, he speaks really well, and he's very clearly a very intelligent manager, but probably has a bit to learn. And that some of the Ghana players felt like they'd followed the game plan perfectly, and that they trust the game plan. But then I got the sense of that they think they can go and push a bit more as well. So they showed that, I guess, against Korea yesterday. So I think it's just one of those things that now the teams are getting more time with each other, and they haven't had that build up. They haven't had those 2 weeks to train together and play friendlies. So, and maybe once the nerves are out of the way and they just know that, right, this is what we're going to need to do, hopefully the games will get better, like we saw yesterday. Like that Cameroon game was incredible.
Oh, brilliant, yeah.
And it must have, the one thing I'm definitely jealous of not being at home is the timings of the games are perfect for back at home.
Yeah.
And my game, England game kicks off at 10 o'clock here tonight, so it's going to be like a 3 a.m. finish. But it is what it is. I'm happy to be covering a World Cup, but yeah, that's one thing I'm probably jealous of is the the nice 7 o'clock kick-off time.
I'm jealous of the weather, but there you go.
Yeah, well, that's the trade-off.
Right, Patrick, I'm going to leave it there, but hopefully we'll catch up with you again, because you're over there for another couple of weeks, aren't you? So it'd be great to have another little catch-up. Obviously, we'll stay in touch. But enjoy the game tonight, and hopefully there's a lot of goals and a good atmosphere for you. But thanks very much for taking the time to join us.
No worries, mate. Thanks a lot for doing it.
All right. Cheers, mate. Take care.
Cheers, bye.
All right, bye, Patrick. Big thanks there to Patrick for joining us live from Qatar, giving us his views on the World Cup so far. Now he's found it, so we will catch up with him again over the next couple of weeks. But thanks for watching. Give the video a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't, and check out Stats Perform. See you later.